Jiang Li and her maid Tong Er encountered a woman unconscious by the river on their way back to Virgin Hall. They rescued her and brought her ashore. The woman, named Xue Fangfei, woke up feeling disoriented and mistook them for bad people. Seeing the bamboo flute in Jiang Li's hand reminded Xue Fangfei of past events. Once, Xue Fangfei defied her father to be with Xin Yurong. Now, however, she found herself ruined by Xin Yurong's schemes, her reputation destroyed. A few days ago, Xue Fangfei woke up in a dream but found herself unclothed with a strange man lying on top of her. Just when the man wanted to violate her, she was seen by Xin's mother and Xin's sister. Xue Fangfei was slandered and locked in a woodshed. Afterwards, Xin Yurong emotionlessly cut off Xue Fangfei's shackles and took her away. On the way, after drinking from the water flask handed to her by Xin Yurong, she fell asleep. Upon waking, she found Xin Yurong intending to bury her in a deep pit, callously stating that he had no choice because the person giving the orders held considerable power. After saying this, Xin Yurong mercilessly used a shovel to knock Xue Fangfei out and bury her in a deep pit. This man's heart was too ruthless. For the sake of power and position, his wife could also be killed. But what Xin Yurong did not expect was that Xue Fangfei did not die. Thinking about all this, Xue Fangfei was very regretful. She wanted to throw herself into the river but intercepted by Jiang Li. Jiang Li expressed empathy, stating that staying alive was most important as it offered a chance for a fresh start. Worried that Xue Fangfei would suffer hunger and cold at night, Jiang Li tried to sneak away under the cover of darkness but was caught by the head of Virgin Hall. The hall leader publicly scolded and beat Jiang Li, accusing her of sneaking out at night to meet a man, the most taboo act in Virgin Hall. Ignoring Jiang Li's explanations, the leader punished her severely, leaving Jiang Li barely alive. Xue Fangfei slipped into Virgin Hall. Jiang Li told Xue Fangfei about her background. She is the Prime Minister's daughter, but she was schemed against by her stepmother and consequently sent by her father to Virgin Hall for 10 years as punishment. Knowing her time was short, Jiang Li entrusted Xue Fangfei with a hairpin that could prove her identity, hoping she could convey her grievances to her father. Xue Fangfei resolved to live on in Jiang Li's identity. Xin Yurong held a banquet at home to entertain guests. With Jiang Li's name on the guest list, Xin's mother strongly objected. If Princess Wanning found out, the Xin family's lives would be at risk. Xin Yurong listened calmly and put some medicine in the tea he served to her mother. After drinking it, his mother peacefully fell asleep. In the evening, people took turns congratulating Xin Yurong, who was now a favorite of the emperor, with a bright future ahead. At this time, Xue Fangfei got up and left alone. As she passed by the woodshed, she recalled everything that had happened there and trembled. Xin Yurong suddenly appeared behind Xue Fangfei. Admitting that he knew she was not Jiang Li, Xue Fangfei bluntly stated that she knew it was his mother who had framed her. From Xin Yurong's actions, she could tell he still had some conscience left. Xue Fangfei demanded Xin Yurong to confess to the emperor and reveal everything he and Wanning had done. Xin Yurong refused, unwilling to put his family in danger. Xue Fangfei was furious, pointing out that his family's crimes did not need redemption and her innocence and grievances did not need recompense. She accused Xin Yurong of being cowardly and weak, saying she had misjudged him and vowed to expose their conspiracy. Xin Yurong hugged Xue Fangfei from behind, urging her not to offend Wanning. Xue Fangfei struggled desperately, and Yi Shijie knocked Xin Yurong out with a stick. Xin's mother suddenly woke up and ran out of the room to find Xin Yurong. When she saw Xue Fangfei holding a stick and Xin Yurong unconscious on the ground, Yi Shijie testified that Xin Yurong had bad intentions to Xue Fangfei. Later, Princess Wanning wrote a letter inviting Xue Fangfei to her residence. Jiang Yuanbai offered to accompany her but was stopped at the door. Wanning plainly stated that she liked Xin Yurong and had fallen in love with him at first sight. Wanning wanted to be with Xin Yurong. She ordered Xin Yurong to kill his wife so that Xin Yurong, who had committed a crime, would be firmly in Wanning's hands. Wanning took Xue Fangfei to the prison to see someone. That person was Xue Zhao, Xue Fangfei's younger brother. Xue Fangfei was heartbroken when she saw Xue Zhao covered in wounds. She hadn't expected him to still be alive. Wanning said she could release Xue Zhao, but only if Xue Fangfei recanted her testimony. The next day, Xue Fangfei confessed according to Wanning's instructions, admitting that it was her unrequited love for Xin Yurong and her declaration of feelings that led to the misunderstanding. Upon learning that Xue Fangfei had been in prison, Xiao Heng hurried over, crossing paths with Xin Yurong. Xue Fangfei asked Xiao Heng to go to the princess's residence to fetch Xue Zhao and ensure his safety. When Xin Yurong returned to the Xin family, he thought about Xiao Heng's provocation and decided to retaliate. Xin Yurong asked Wanning to have the emperor decree a marriage between him and Xue Fangfei so he could keep her in the Xin family and continue tormenting her. Wanning was astonished, but Xin Yurong gave her a hairpin, which moved her heart. Thus, Xue Fangfei was released and saw Xin Yurong coming to pick her up. Xin Yurong explained that marrying her this time was to protect her, but Xue Fangfei no longer believed him. Xiao Heng had been waiting at the gate for a long time, and Xue Fangfei ran towards him in front of Xin Yurong. He held her hand, and they got into the carriage together. Xiao Heng brought Xue Fangfei into the palace to meet Consort Li. Xue Fangfei handed over the palace maid's confession letter to Consort Li, indicating that she could help resolve the issue. At the same time, Xue Fangfei requested a favor from Consort Li. Meanwhile, when Xin Yurong was serving Wanning, Xiao Heng came to see her. Xiao Heng asked Wanning to cancel the marriage between Xue Fangfei and Xin Yurong. Wanning was unwilling, but Xiao Heng presented her with the Dragon Guard's military token, expressing that he only cared about Xue Fangfei and was willing to do anything for her. All of this was overheard by Xin Yurong, who was hiding behind the curtain. A few days later, it was Consort Li's birthday. Listening to the tune played by Xue Fangfei, Xin Yurong couldn't help but recall their carefree and joyful days together, where he played the flute and she played the zither, living a happy and carefree life. Reflecting on the present, he drank heavily out of frustration. Seeing Xin Yurong's distress, Wanning also couldn't control her emotions and drank a few more cups of wine. Wanning felt very unwell after waking up. Imperial Dr. Zhang checked her pulse and was extremely surprised, announcing that Wanning had been pregnant for a month. Wanning couldn't believe it, as it was Imperial Dr. Zhang who had previously diagnosed her as unable to conceive. Years ago, when Wanning was sent as a hostage to the Dai Kingdom, she was brutally mistreated and violated by the King of Dai. She was confined to sleep in a sheep pen, enduring harsh conditions for years, and suffered multiple miscarriages, leading to her loss of fertility. This time, finally being pregnant, Wanning was determined to keep the child. She wanted to ask the emperor for a marriage decree to give her child a legitimate father. Xin Yurong remained calm and unhurried. He believed that someone was orchestrating this situation with the intention of exposing the affair between Wanning and him. Xin Yurong warned Wanning not to fall into the trap and suggested that the only way to protect her unborn child was for Wanning to marry Li Jin. Although Wanning was extremely reluctant in her heart, she had no choice but to accept marrying into the Li family. On the wedding night, Wanning deliberately teased Li Jin and even slapped him. Li Jin, feeling greatly wronged, had to pretend as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Xin Yurong felt relieved after pushing Wanning to Li Jin. Xin Yurong consulted various ancient books and references, discovering that Wanning's pregnancy was indeed a fabrication. Feeling aggrieved in the Li household, Wanning decided to train Li Jin properly. She summoned Li Jin and made him serve her meal. Wanning deliberately picked on and teased Li Jin, making him pick up shrimp from the floor and eat it. Unable to tolerate it any longer, Li Jin picked up the shrimp from the floor and ate it, then stated that he wouldn't wag his tail and beg for her favor like Xin Yurong. Hearing Li Jin scold Xin Yurong made Wanning furious, leading to a verbal altercation between them. After Li Jin stormed off in anger, Wanning overturned the table and suddenly felt abdominal pain before fainting. The imperial doctor soon arrived and diagnosed that Wanning had miscarried. Xin Yurong had already found the drug that made Wanning falsely pregnant and knew it was Xue Fangfei's doing. Blaming Li Jin for the loss of her child, Wanning demanded that he pay with his life. Just as she was about to stab Li Jin with a sword, Xin Yurong arrived, saying they had fallen into a trap. Wanning couldn't believe it. Her anticipation for the unborn child was stronger than most. She immediately sent a message to Prince Qing of the Northern Territory. Upon learning that Wanning had obtained the military token, Prince Qing prepared to take advantage of the opportunity to enter the capital for ancestral worship and launch a rebellion. King Cheng's army is already on its way to the capital, and Xin Yurong is heading there alone late at night. Xin Yurong believes that all they lack now is a justifiable reason for launching the campaign. Having devised a strategy to present to King Cheng, it now depends on whether King Cheng is willing to make the necessary sacrifices. Xin Yurong wanted to kill Wanning and blame the emperor for her death, so that King Cheng could send out his troops. Upon hearing this, King Cheng immediately drew his sword and thought that Xin Yurong was reckless, but then said that he could let Wanning fake her death. Xin Yurong had a servant girl bring a stew to Wanning. Feeling gratified, Wanning thought Xin Yurong had finally come to his senses and drank the stew immediately. Meanwhile, Xin Yurong personally went to the cell and drugged Xue Fangfei. Suddenly, Wanning vomited blood. She glanced at the bowl of stew, suspecting that Xin Yurong had poisoned her. As the sky opened up and rain poured down, Xin Yurong emerged holding Xue Fangfei. Wanning stood in the rain, heartbroken. She questioned Xin Yurong if he had ever loved her. Xin Yurong told Wanning that this was all part of King Cheng's plan and that Wanning was just a pawn, to be discarded without mercy when no longer needed. Devastated, Wanning removed the hairpin Xin Yurong had given her and returned it to him. Taking advantage of his distraction, she stabbed the hairpin into her own chest. With her last breath, she told Xin Yurong that she would wait for him in hell. Stunned, Xin Yurong watched as Wanning collapsed to the ground. Xue Fangfei awoke in Xin Yurong's arms but was too weak to resist. She accused Xin Yurong of being selfish and heartless. Xin Yurong produced a military token, declaring his intention to kill Xiao Heng. Xiao Heng was surrounded by the Lanwu army alone at the base of Qing Tower. Xin Yurong ordered the archers to take their positions and shoot Xiao Heng. Initially, Xin Yurong had not intended to kill Xiao Heng, but because of Xiao Heng, Xue Fangfei no longer wanted to see him. Xiao Heng had stolen Xue Fangfei's heart. Xin Yurong stands on the city wall and orders the archers to get ready as he mocks Xiao Heng for being abandoned by others. Suddenly Xue Fangfei rides over. She is willing to die with Xiao Heng. Taking advantage of Xin Yurong picking up the military token, Xue Fangfei shot an arrow, injuring Xin Yurong's hand. Jiu Yue used her lightness skills to fly over, snatch the fallen military token, and return it to Xiao Heng. Xiao Heng led the Lanwu army back to seek revenge against King Cheng. Xin Yurong, enduring the pain, pulled the arrowhead from his hand. Xue Fangfei walked up to him, telling him to accept the legal punishment of the Yan dynasty. Xin Yurong, filled with regret and self-reproach, thought that if he had not passed the imperial examination as the top scholar, he could have lived a good life with Xue Fangfei. Unfortunately, he took a wrong step and could never turn back. Xue Fangfei looked up at the moon, hoping that in his next life, Xin Yurong would be born into wealth and live as a pure and good person. Watching Xue Fangfei leave, Xin Yurong stood on the city tower and played the tune that once brought them together. All the beautiful memories of the past could never be reclaimed. Xin Yurong leaped off the city tower. Upon hearing the sound, Xue Fangfei paused briefly before continuing to walk forward, while Xin Yurong's vision blurred as he watched her fading figure.